1979, the Islamic Republic was established in Iran under the leadership of Ayatollah Khomeini. 30 years later, after the 2009 presidential election, for the first time ever, the entire political and religious order have been seriously questioned by the masses. Coming up on Situation Iran, we will discuss how local Iranians and Iranian Americans have responded to these unprecedented events.
They resorted to military aggressions to make an entire nation homeless.
On strikes, but this is the price for freedom. And
happy discussions between our president.
Hello and welcome to Situation Iran, presented by MCTV. I am Aram Hesami. The message of change and yes we can by Mir Hossein Mousavi had given hope that the hardliners will no longer govern Iran with an iron fist, and that there will be genuine reforms as a result of this presidential election. Instead, when the spokesperson for the Interior Minister declared Mahmoud Ahmadinejad the winner in a landslide, it started a chain reaction in Tehran and the rest of the world. Members of the international press were ordered out of the country and threatened with imprisonment if they did not comply. Peaceful protests soon turned bloody when the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, ordered the police and paramilitary to put down any attempts to question the result of the election. Iranian communities all over, especially in major capitals of the world, including Paris, London, and Washington, D.C., have come to support these protests in a show of peaceful solidarity. Here with us today, we have Babak Talebi and Negar Mortazavi to have a closer look at these grassroots activities in our area. Welcome, Babak and Negar. Thanks for coming. Please tell our audience the level of your activities and the extent of your involvement, both pre and post-election.
Certainly. Our group of people that are now kind of organized into a group called Where's My Vote DC really started the day after the election. I myself was not particularly active in getting people out to vote or anything beforehand, except telling my friends to go vote. Normal kind of process of an election. But that night after the results came through, everybody was getting depressed, everybody had disbelief, and the news started coming out of Iran that indicated there was a lot of funny business going on, that this election result that was being announced did not seem legitimate. The next day, through Facebook and email in the span of just a couple of hours, we gathered about 100 people in front of the Iranian intersection at around 3 p.m. here in D.C., which was a kind of a bubbling up of that grassroots activism you were talking about. Simply coming out there to let it be known to the world that we want to know where is my vote. And that became very quickly the kind of main slogan of the movement in saying, look, I who voted in this election, along with 85% of other Iranians and Iranians around the world, feel that a very basic legal right, a very basic citizen's right, a very basic human right of mine was taken away. And I and 100 other people started that, and it continued. So Where's My Vote DC has had about 12 or 13 protest or rally or march events here in DC. There's been others who've done phenomenal work creating videos, creating more kind of public awareness around it. And the same exact kind of model of a grassroots kind of organizing volunteer staff has actually sprouted out around the country. There's at least 30, 40 cities that we're in touch with, we're aware of, where similar activism has occurred, similar protests, candlelight vigils. And we've had, a ton of support from the community, whether it's been donating some money so we could make more posters, or whether it's donating their time or spreading the word, or simply coming out with us and simply standing in solidarity. It's been a phenomenal experience. Now, there's certainly a lot to talk about as far as...
I'm going to ask you personally in a second. Negar, what has been the extent of your involvement pre and post-election? Because I know...
Well, I was involved with this sort of online organization, Setadema, which means our campaign that We created about a month before the election, and basically the idea was to get out the vote, to encourage people to vote in the election. And obviously we didn't expect what would come out of the election, but after the election happened, as Babak explained, the Talebi crew, which is all over the world, span globally, sort of merged into this bigger umbrella, the Where Is My Vote global action that is happening all over North America and Europe, and even inside Iran. We're connected with all these different cities, like Babak is saying, and doing different things, including we participate in demonstrations, but also making clips and videos online, just sort of getting the information, sending out newsletters, and a lot of things that we're doing online to sort of help this movement go on.
I'm going to get a little personal with you. I'm going to start with you. How does these events, especially after the June 12th election, have affected you personally in this, watching your homeland being torn, and there's major controversy, major protests on the streets, getting bloody? I'm sure everyone has watched Negar's violent death on TV around the world. How does this make you feel personally now that you're here and not there?
Well, this might not be a very conventional answer, but the most important feeling I have is that I feel very proud, which is being proud of my people for sort of the way I see the events happen is after the elections, the way people sort of mapped out the things, and the way they, the uprisings and the nonviolent and the peaceful aspect of the movement sort of made a very clear line between what the people want and what is going on in the administration. And as an Iranian living outside the country especially, I feel very proud of sort of being able to tell the world that, okay, this is what my people really are standing for and want. And whereas 4 years ago, like the past 4 years before, it was very hard to defend the fact that, okay, well, there's somebody who's a president, but this is not exactly what my people want. But I think what happened after the election, including the violent and the sort of saddening events, but in general, it just showed them as a brave people, as people who know what they want, and they're standing for a very, in a very sort of modern and interesting way, but also very unified and peaceful, which is the most important aspect of it for me.
Babak, same question to you. How does it make you feel?
Reflecting on it, pride is actually a very good word in the sense that the Iranian people have kind of stood up and taken control of their own destiny. And one of the most important elements of our activism and our effort here has been to make sure that we stand behind the people in Iran, not to try to lead them into some sort of revolution or whatever, or try to give them a line to follow. It's what they want that we simply are going to try to amplify and be a voice, since they do not have access to the kind of media or even internet or basic things like the telephone, at least during those immediate days after the election, to make sure that we gave them a voice in the international arena. So that was one of the first things. But of course, you know, we're all worried for every single individual out there. There are people who've been, you know, not only sweating and taking their time and bleeding on the streets of Tehran and other cities to fight for very basic legal rights, citizens' rights, human rights that they deserve to have. You know, it's not just about an election or somebody we don't like getting elected. I mean, here in the U.S., there's a lot of people who don't like Obama, or a lot of people who for 8 years didn't like Bush and was a president they didn't like. There's a difference between that and having a sense that something was taken away from them, something very basic was stolen from them, which was their belief in their system, their belief in the republic element of this Islamic Republic, and this idea that there is hope to change the system. And that's what they were fighting for, and I'm proud that they stood up and fought for it. There's a lot of countries around the world where people cannot or do not stand up for those rights, and the people in Iran have, and we should support them 100% in that process.
The other question is, how do you think the perception of Americans have changed through these demonstrations? Real quickly, start with you.
Well, I can maybe link it to a personal story, which is before the election, with our campaign, online campaign that I mentioned. We went in front of the Congress one day just to get regular Americans. We're making this clip. We wanted to get regular Americans to hold up signs that says we voted and you should vote too, just as a sort of get out the vote message. And we had little flags of Iran. This is before the election. We were talking to people and it seemed that they're interested in the concept and the idea, but when we showed the flag, a lot of people were hesitant to hold the Iranian flag. They would be like, Iran? No, sorry, I can't hold a flag. After the election, this is very, very clear, same place, same people. We went in front of the Congress again with this huge flag of Iran, asking people to come and support us with the slogan of "Where's my vote?" And people were so interested. People would come up to us without even us asking them, ask us to be in the picture, to be in the video, hold the flag, hold the sign, now you take a picture of us, we take a picture of you. So this whole perception of regular Americans of Iran totally changed, I think, over the span of 1 week, sort of. And before the Congress, before the election, the feeling I had in front of the Congress was I don't know, frustrated that why would you not want to hold a flag, which is a representation of my country and my people, regardless of what the administration is. But after the election, that completely changed.
We'll be right back with more questions for Babak and Negar.
Have you ever studied at MC? If you earned a degree or certificate, transferred to a university, or took continuing education classes, you can join the Montgomery College Alumni Association. Your free membership gets you a host of benefits, including a subscription to Insights magazine. For details, go to www.montgomerycollege.edu and click on Alumni. Montgomery College, endless possibilities.
In one word, convenience. I travel a lot for work, so being able to take the classes when I needed to and when to work on them whenever I could. I took my laptop with me and did classes from hotel rooms. The ease of use is probably a 10 for me. I would definitely recommend it. I actually have recommended it.
Welcome back to Situation Iran. We're here with our guest discussing the post-election protests in Iran and activities in the Washington metropolitan area. Again, I have a major question for both of you. As you know, the government ordered the international press to pack and leave unless they can report positive news about the situation in Iran. Where do you all get your information, and how do the people in Iran get their information there? Start with you.
That's a great question, and in fact, one of the biggest things that's been shown in this period of time is what many are calling a real technological revolution, if not a political one, in the sense that the people in Iran have turned to, especially in the early days when the government at first did not have the capacity to respond or was caught flat-footed in responding, using Twitter, which all of you have now become very familiar with, all your viewers, Facebook particularly, YouTube, Skype, different technological tools to be able to get that information out. In fact, one of the reasons Twitter suddenly became powerful was because it was short messages. So with slower internet connections in Iran, they were able to send out information quickly in short bites instead of, say, a video, which took a lot longer to upload, for example. Now, one of the things as to how they get information, now, today, obviously, word of mouth is still very key. People have their own networks of friends. Still, they don't trust cell phones or text messaging, which they used to use running up to the election to organize campaign activities. They stopped using that, so they were able to kind of move quickly and change up. I'll give you a couple of quick examples. Here in Washington, D.C., we have a blog that we use that we give information. So information that we get, news stories that we get, that we verify are accurate and are sourced, we then post on our blog in Farsi language, which has a lot of actual viewers. Thousands of people on a daily basis come to that blog to find news. For example, videos. We used to post videos to, let's say, YouTube, and they told us, our readers told us, hey, we can't go to YouTube, it's blocked. So we found a way to upload it somewhere else and give them a different link that they could have access to. So there's a lot of communication that goes on very quickly through email or through Skype or other mechanisms to kind of, they make their demands known. One of the big questions, one of the big things that's huge right now is what's called filter chicane, or in other words, the anti-filter kind of devices. And I'm not a computer person, so I don't know all of them. But in essence, allows the public in Iran to get around the government filters so they can get to websites that they want through proxies. So there's a lot of technology involved in this process.
Have you experienced the use of the technology with your own friends in Iran and your families? Do you communicate? How do you get your news?
Yes, well, because I grew up in Iran, I still have a lot of friends. I went to college there and school, and just like Babak was saying, this technology thing is very amazing. It didn't even happen in the past election, which was only 4 years ago. And people are trying to get the information out through Messenger, Skype, email, even like sending out videos. These citizen journalists, this phenomenon of citizen journalists has become very, very important because they kicked out most of the major international media, and so the people are going out there with their mobile phones, with cameras, and in whatever way they can, they're trying to just document this whole event and send it out to the internet, to their peers outside, which we're part of, and then have us sort of disseminated to the world and even back into the country. And another interesting story I have is I was talking to one of my friends on Skype who happened to be on the same street when Negar was shot, the famous video that came out. And he was telling me the stories firsthand before I even saw the video of this young woman that was shot, and then what happened around it, which wasn't captured in the video, is just the Basiji that shot her was captured by the people, and people were very angry and outraged, and then they finally managed to get him out of the street. The other Basijis, they got him into an ambulance and they ran away. But it's very interesting that the way people are trying to get the information out, and they're very passionate about it too. Like every time I log into my Messenger, my friends sort of attack me for and try to tell me all these stories so that I can tell the stories outside, and it's going sort of.
I have a question, Babak, for you. Apropos of the comments that Negar made, to what extent do you think that the dissemination of information and, of course, the globalization of the information technology and these Facebook, Twitter, Skype have helped people to come and vote and use the same type of messages that Obama, for example, used in his campaign? To what extent you think this was such as yes, we can, or as you know, change? To what extent you think this type of communication have helped the movement in Iran or awareness?
Sure, and I guess on the campaign side, maybe Negar can talk about how they used it during the campaign to gather more people to get out the vote. But obviously it was effective in 85% voter turnout in Iran. Although I should say the Yes We Can slogan in Iran was actually used by Ahmadinejad, Ma mitavanim. It wasn't Mousavi's
I think
slogan.
it was used after and during by both campaigns,
yeah,
actually,
sure,
ironically.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it became
One
quite
way or
popular,
another, yeah.
in different formats. But yeah, obviously the technology is very important, and one of the biggest, I guess, things that, one of the most important things for us here in the West is that we who have access, open access to a lot of the press, have a role to play in amplifying and distributing information. So if they send out that information into the void, into this internet ether, and nobody picks it up and spreads it and gives it amplification, then it's irrelevant. But what has happened is that when it has been sent out, it's been reposted. And this is called retwittering, for example, on Twitter.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will wrap up our discussion on the current situation in Iran and discuss what the American public might do. We'll be right back with more Situation Iran, presented by MCTV.
I can't imagine my life without Montgomery College, so I am just so happy that I made that decision for myself. It really gave me a second chance, because I thought I wasn't going anywhere when I graduated from high school, and that's a horrible feeling. And right now, I feel like I can do whatever I want. I can succeed at anything that I want to succeed at. And my goal is to get a doctorate now in psychology.
Montgomery College, endless possibilities, 240-567-5000.
National Junior College Athletic Association. Opportunity for excellence. Fast track to your dream.
Welcome back to Situation Iran, presented by MCTV. We are here with Babak and Negar talking about the activities after and before the election. I have a major question for both of you again, and the question is, what do you expect the American government or President Obama to do? And in the same vein, what do you expect the American public to do about the situation in Iran? What are your expectations by your activities?
Well, the international public and certainly governments around the world, as well as the media, have very important roles to play in this and how this situation evolves over the next few months. First and foremost, the biggest demand that we Iranian Americans and Iranians inside Iran have is do not legitimize this particular administration. So this election... And
you mean Ahmadinejad?
Ahmadinejad's administration, his second term, his election should not be legitimized. That does not mean he's necessarily recognized as the president, even inside Iran, by people, the elite of that government itself. So the legitimacy question is a very important one. And one thing, for example, in the first couple of weeks that really upset a lot of Iranian Americans and Iranians alike was that when we felt that in the U.S. Congress, some of our elected officials started to use the Iranian crisis as a political football to score some cheap partisan points. And it was something that really angered us. A lot of Iranians here wrote letters to their members of Congress, to senators in particular, and we asked that Americans stand with us and not allowing the situation to become a political football. It's not. It's a matter of life and death and the future of Iran. We think that President Obama has handled the situation with poise, with wisdom, and he should be supported in that regard. And I think he knows what he's doing. There's other things that certainly people can do, Americans in general. There's a lot of events that go on. Your viewers can check out the event information as it becomes available on our website, which is whereismyvotedc.org. Make sure the awareness is there. And even if the media gets sidetracked by a new event, if Michael Jackson's death, for example, occupied the time on the international media stage, but the situation in Iran did not go away just because the American media stopped covering it. So that's a very important understanding that we would love the public to have, and to demand of the media to take this situation seriously and give it the coverage it deserves.
Well, I just agree with Babak, and also I would like to add to the sort of what the civil society and the everyday citizens can do is basically to just make sure that you don't let this, like Babak was saying, don't think that this movement is getting slower or that it's going down, even though the climax of the events were happening mostly the first 1 or 2 weeks after the election, and sort of the violence or the bleeding is what leads the media, and that's when they're following it. But when that stops, sort of the media is not going to cover it as much as they have. But the public opinion of the world matters. So especially in the Western countries, if the public opinion is not expecting their parliament or their Congress or their presidents to sort of legitimize this government, then that would put pressure on the world leaders to sort of not, to as Babak was saying, to not legitimize the government, which is very important. But what I'm pointing at is that the civil society and everyday citizens can put that pressure on their leaders, besides the leaders who should take this point, is that they should put this pressure as the public opinion and also try to educate each other.
I noticed that both of you are wearing green bands, and can you tell me where you can get those, and what would you like the Americans to wear more of those, and what does it mean?
Well, I see this is a symbol, a sign of this movement. It's a very simple piece of green fabric. You can get it at any fabric store. And the way this started is people started wearing this in Iran, but also in a few major events, Wimbledon, the tennis event, non-Iranian players were wearing this. The football team, the Iranian soccer team, I'm sorry, at a very major game competition, they were wearing green wristbands, which is very silent and sort of no political way of supporting this movement. And also another thing I wanted to add is some singers, some very important singers in the world, are supporting this movement by doing green things or singing songs like Joan Baez, U2, Bon Jovi, and these are all different ways of supporting the movement.
Maybe last word, what do you want an individual sitting in the United States to help this movement in Iran? What do you expect them to do?
More important than anything else, and I'm very happy to see this in the American public I interact with, is to be informed about what's going on and not to simplify the situation as a black or white. This isn't a simple situation of revolution or X, Y, or Z. This is a very complex crisis, and being informed about it is the best way to be able to understand how then you can be helpful. But the awareness of it, particularly sounding off on issues of human rights, legal rights of the people inside Iran, pressuring our governments not to legitimize them. And there's going to be campaigns, maybe boycotting Nokia that sold a lot of the technology equipment to the government that suppressed the information. So those types of things, keep your ears peeled or watch those internet sites and follow along and help us out in any way you can to keep that awareness alive.
Maybe think globally and act locally. That's what would summarize it. Thanks, Negar and Babak, for coming. For more information about any of the Montgomery College programs we have discussed, please visit our website at montgomerycollege.edu. For all of us here at Situation Iran, I'm Aram Hesami. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. I want to give you a wristband. Thank you.